Greetings everyone, welcome back to another episode of Human Resources in History. This podcast aims to offer insights from 7,000 years of human history to help modern human resource practices. I am your host Makoto, a data scientist and journalist.
Hello everyone, I'm Jin, your co-host. I'm an HR professional and I love history.
Cool. So this is the last part of the 3-episode series on impact of technology.
Right.
And we have talked about the first printing press and the second, the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about generative AI.
Yes, right. Our concept of this episode is to apply what we learned from history. Like as you mentioned, we learned printing press and then Industrial Revolution in the last 2 episodes. So we got this framework and we actually applied this framework to analyze the impact of these 2 events, right? So, and then today we are going to use this framework and then analyze the impact of generative AI. Well, of course, generative AI, it's not history yet. It's kind of like predicting the future. But we believe that we can still use this framework that we got from learning history and to better prepare for the future. So this is what we want to do in this episode, and also this is the concept of our blog.
Yeah, okay. So from this episode, I think HR professional people can benefit in a sense that they can be, let's say, prepared for the upcoming impact created by generative AI and also potentially break complicated things down into an actionable points.
Right. We will give some insights about what we can do, So what? Generative AI, that's a complicated topic, but, what can we do?
Right.
The framework will give us some clues for that.
Okay, nice.
So, but yeah, you use ChatGPT or any kind of generative AI tools, right? I guess.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT and Claude literally every day. And, just for chatting random things, but also when I code, my code editor has a GPT support in the backend. And while I write code, it suggests next few lines of code. And it's super, super useful. I don't think I can live without it. Anymore. And I think the last time I didn't use generative AI tools was when I was on a vacation where I simply didn't have internet connections. Otherwise, I would have used it for something like asking about the beach or
It's like you're now your best friend.
Oh, exactly. Because I'm talking to the Gen AI more than anyone else. Well,
I see.
That was a bit of an exaggeration.
Probably you talk to more to your wife, I hope.
But it's the fact that GenAI is having impact on every single corner of at least my life.
Right.
And I guess for everybody else as well.
In my case, our company has our own GPT tool. So I literally talk to my GPT, I think every 30 minutes at least. And we've been saying, like many people are saying that GPT will really change the world and how we work. And actually, this really liberate my, I don't know how to say, potential. Because now with the GPT, I can code. Before GPT, I could never code. I knew how to kind of like use Python or SQL, but actually never used it in my life. Right. But now I build and then update my people analytics dashboard because this is what I do in my current company, and then almost like 95% automated using Python. And then I think this analysis will take literally like 10 hours because we have a lot of tabs and views, right?
If you did it manually.
Yeah, if I did it manually.
Wow.
But now it's really like 30 minutes. But just some still like I need to do some manual works. But it's 30 minutes. And then I'm using this time actually to talk to have a more proactive future-looking conversation. What can we do for the future? And I actually have more time to learn something new. So ChatGPT gave me an opportunity to accelerate my learning cycle.
It's an empowerment.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
empowers you with a new skill set and
Yeah.
enhances your potential much bigger than before.
Yeah, it's I'm kind of like proud of developing my skills using GPT and using code. This gives me like kind of a unique skill set in HR.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to show off my skills, but I'm proud of what I have done. Of course,
Yeah.
thanks to GPT.
It's a good thing that you clearly say it, that it's not all what you did, but it's supported by some tool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
credit to ChatGPT.
credit to an open AI. And yeah, well, but it's the fact that a lot of people are now using, and also a lot of people are experiencing changes in the way they work. And then not everything has come yet. So I guess people are wondering, wait, what are we going to do? Like, what's going to happen to our jobs? And so that's why we are having this third episode and applying the framework to this use case. So shall we start from the...
Sure. Do you remember the 5 elements in the framework?
Again, I mean, how many times do you want to test me?
I just, like to set the...
To set the scene? Okay. I mean, I do remember. So the first one is economic dynamics. Second one was workforce dynamics.
Yes.
Third one was ways of working. And the fourth one, organizational dynamics. And the last one was drawbacks.
Yes. Okay. So if if our readers don't remember what these are, don't worry about it, because I'm going to use this framework and explain what I really meant, and then analyze the potential impact caused by generative AI.
Okay.
Right. So what I'm saying here is, to provide so what for generative AI. And then these 5 elements, but after analyzing the generative AI with these 5 elements, as an HR, we have a much clearer view on what we have to do. Okay, let's go with the first one, economic dynamics. So economic dynamics is basically, what kind of the impacts on the economy, not on your company only, but the economics, entire economics of the world or of your country. Right? So let me explain a little bit more. Generative AI has been creating new industries and revenue streams, right? So we have to aware, as an HR, not only HR, but we are talking from an HR point of view. As an HR, we have to know what are these new industries and what are these potential revenue streams, right? So some examples: AI-powered content creation, Midjourney, for example, right? So with that, a lot of designers or marketers, now they don't have to create everything from scratch. Right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, like we love learning, but generative AI will help us, will help personalize education. So it's really important for HR, especially like director level CHROs. It's important to understand what are the economic impacts and what are the impacts on the industry. And then also we need to know how investment is changed by new technologies. In this case, generative AI. What I meant is that, like remember last year or 2 years ago, everybody was talking about metaverse.
Oh, yes.
So, like they're big buzz and big hype, right? But now, I think it was like one of the big four consulting firms article or something, and it says now the investment clearly is shifting from metaverse to generative AI. So it's also important how the word money is moving from one place to another, right? This is the important thing to be aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about the big picture, like where the money goes, where the money is flowing into, and where the new industries is born.
Right.
But how does it help the HR professional?
Yeah, so I think this is more for top HR executives like CHROs or HR directors, right? So without this view on economic impact, we are always, ended up with waiting for the strategy from the CEO or COO, and then we'll just execute, right? But then imagine that you understand the economic impact. Like, there will be this new revenue stream, there will be this new industry. Then you can proactively think about what will be the impact on your people, right? And then what kind of talent do we need to prepare for that change? Then we can tell, as a CHRO, we can tell our CEO or COO that something like, okay, so we see this kind of new business opportunities. In our company, we have this kind of talent, and externally, now we can access this kind of talent pool. So now the best strategy, thinking about our internal resources and then external market situation, this is the area we have to go, right? If you don't have this view, you will just wait for your CEO to decide a strategy. Okay, CEO says, we're going to do this. You just hire these people. And the CHRO will be like, oh, yes, we will try our best. And then eventually, there is no talent internally. There is no talent in the market. And then this business strategy won't be executed. And then you, as a CHRO, will be blamed for this because you basically failed to secure talent, right? So that is why this is really important as a CHRO to have this proactive approach. So for that, you need to understand the how economics work.
Okay.
And of course, this requires a lot of experience and then training. It's really difficult. I'm saying this. I'm trying to understand how world works to see our internal resources, external market. But to be honest, for me, it's difficult too. But as a CHRO, you need to do that.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. I guess even if you're not that high level, I guess eventually those kind of determined strategy will trickle down into the daily tasks of the regular HR professional people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't mean that they don't have to care about it, right? Just because they're not that high level.
So. Yeah, I meant for CHRO, this is a must skill, but of course, this is nice to have skills for everyone.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one, which is workforce dynamics. Right? So there are several things that we can talk about it. So we talked about economics, but this is more, we put focus on people.
Right.
So there are several aspects under this element. First one is job displacement creation. Yeah. So we know that generative AI will likely displace many jobs like customer service or office support, but it also creates new jobs like AI engineers or
monitoring the performance of AI and those kind of new positions, roles.
So that is something that we already know, and then also like junior roles might be impacted, like interns or new grads. I don't know if you remember this news from JP Morgan Chase. They said generative AI will do the job of analyst. Of course, they cannot completely replace the analyst, but
but partially they already ask GenAI to do some analysis.
Right. Yeah. So these are the type of impact on the workforce, and then workforce dynamics will change. So there are a lot of articles like I've seen like World Economic Forum or Accenture or McKinsey. They published some interesting papers to see what kind of jobs will be displaced and what kind of jobs will be created. Right. This is the job displacement and creation. So generative AI will surely create or displace some jobs, but we've seen the same thing in printing press or industrial revolutions and any other major technological advancement. We have to think about that.
Right. Yeah. And I think this is what people fear the most at this moment. Most of the people talk about not only what Gen AI can do, it's really exciting, but also your job might be at risk. When I read the news about Duolingo, the language learning application, they cut off 10% of its contractors. I think that was last year because of the Gen AI.
I see. I see.
Yeah, and then I don't think massive layoffs because of the Gen AI is already happening. A lot of layoffs are happening because of the economy itself, because the economy has been quite bad. But gradually, you probably started to see a lot more AI chatbot in the bottom left corner of any kinds of website, like booking.com or any kinds of like customer service website used to have a chatbot directly connected to human in the backend, but nowadays it's freaking difficult to reach to an actual customer support, and you first have to chat with the AI. So it kind of tells you, oh, the change is already happening in the backend. Somebody's already being replaced. It's scary, but as we learned from the past 2 episodes, the same thing happened in the past, and I think there's something we can learn and prepare.
Speaking of chatbots, I think we started to see chatbots like 10 years ago, maybe. But now, looking back at this period, that chatbot really sucks, right? Their responses is not really accurate or relevant. But now, the latest chatbot using generative AI, the quality is so good.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know that the Duolingo cut off 10% of contractors.
There was a news last year.
I'm a big fan of Duolingo, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I used to use a lot, but it doesn't have Croatian language.
You can create a Crolingo or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so the job displacement and creation was the first thing that we need to think about workforce dynamics.
Right.
But, the important thing is actually the second point. Generative AI will enhance jobs, but not fully replace. So I said some jobs will be displaced, but maybe displace, this word might not be accurate because customer service, we're never going. We need people there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Office support, of course, it can be like some jobs might be cut, but we need someone for, the office support or content creation, right? I remember 1.5 years ago, people are like, okay, which job will be suppressed? This is not really a good question because, for the reason I just mentioned. And, AI lacks the human touch. They are not human at the end of the day. They cannot do any complex problem solving. They can do a problem solving if we give the right question, right? But it's a human who give the right question to generative AI, right? For that, this process requires strategic thinking, and then also a lot of nuanced communication between stakeholders. And of course, AI is just a pure statistical, like mathematics. So that's why we can use generative AI, but we cannot completely, replace any jobs.
That's so important, I think.
Yeah.
And for the HR, I guess it's important to know exactly, like more in detail, what's going to happen to each job roles.
Yeah.
I think we should not jump into the conclusion that every job will be severely affected or some jobs will be replaced, but think deeply, what are the values that only humans can add, and what are the repetitive tasks that can be replaced by generative AI. And also, because this is what I learned from the last episode, Industrial Revolution, but some artisans gained more money because they had skills to create one and only product, not just a mass production. So I think the same thing will happen. Like, even though everybody can easily now generate high quality images using the Mid-Journey or any kinds of image generation models, it doesn't mean at all that all artists will be replaced. And some artwork will gain more value because there's a human in behind. I said art as an example, but it's the same for the business roles as well, like sales. Of course, like easy interactions between salesperson and the customer can be maybe replaced by a chatbot, but more complicated offerings, or if you need to sell something really expensive, then the customer won't just buy talking to chatbot, right? They want to talk to the actual salesperson and get convinced. So I think salespeople who can sell the pen when Leonardo DiCaprio said, "Sell me this pen," then those kind of salespeople, I don't think they need to be afraid of being replaced.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we need to, for us to do something, we need a story and we need feeling behind it, right?
Yeah.
And then also, if you have, as you mentioned about salespeople, if they have a very outstanding skills, then yeah, we can still use it.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that, yeah, I remember this moment again 1 year and a half ago. My manager asked me to analyze the impact of generative AI, and then still, like a lot of consulting firms or the scholars or business people are talking about which jobs will be suppressed. But then what I did is I categorized each job responsibilities, job descriptions into 3 categories. The first is suppressed, second enhanced, third category is newly created. You know what I mean? So when you analyze the impact of generative AI on certain job role, you can analyze what job process will be gone. But we can use generative AI to enhance our job. What kind of job roles activities will be enhanced, and then generative AI will create completely new task for us, right? I think this framework I used was quite helpful, at least for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been using this framework for a long time.
Actually, yes. So it was helpful. So now we talked about job displacement and creation, but we also need to think about they are not fully replaced, but some jobs will be enhanced. I also want to mention the importance of upskilling, right? So as I said, some jobs will be, some job activities in one job will be enhanced, and then probably completely new tasks will emerge. For that, we need to train people.
Right.
So like technical roles, like project managers, now many project managers need to deal with AI product. And for that, of course, their project management skills and then their tech knowledge will still remain valuable. But now they need to understand how AI works. It's really important for HR to upskill the people, right?
Right.
But I know, of course, it's not only technical roles, but now everyone is expected to use generative AI, right? So of course, it's important for HR to train non-tech roles as well, so that they can actually benefit from this newly implemented generative AI tool, right? Again, for HR, it's really important to understand what kind of the skills will be required after some jobs replaced, some jobs enhanced, right? And then identify the skills gap, and then create training programs. And then also, if it's not possible to secure all the skills internally, then of course HR needs to look outside to acquire external talent, so that eventually the organization can ensure the future-ready workforce.
Right. I said this in the last episode, but this for the HR, this is easier said than done, because the challenge is that it's to identify necessary skills. What skills will be necessary, and nobody knows it. That's the issue. Even the business side, sometimes people don't know what kind of skills will be required. Like I can talk about my example as an engineer. GenAI can now write a small piece of code, or not only the small piece of code, but the actual small application. They can make it.
Yeah.
And it works. But definitely not ready yet for making enterprise scale big systems. Engineers need to still design the whole system, draw high level architecture diagrams, and break it down into smaller applications or microservices. And then for each services, they can use GenAI to write actual code. In this sense, engineers still need to have skills in drawing architecture or think about systems, like designing systems. This is very necessary, even more necessary in this changing environment with GenAI. And also for each piece of code GenAI spits out, it's not always perfect. And it's not, they don't provide you the most efficient way. Well, sometimes yes, but you need to really carefully read line by line and understand what's going on, if there's any missing parts or anything that it can be improved further. So engineers who have just been, for example, like reusing, pre-built packages that somebody made, or just importing and loading, or just hitting some external APIs without really like thinking what's going on, or without really extending thoughts onto the actual subtasks happening in the background of the code, then they don't have this kind of skill. So if I can advise to the HR people, you should look for engineers with this kind of skill set.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Thanks to generative AI, we actually realized what is the really, really core skills. And then oftentimes they are traditional, skills as an engineer, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then with that traditional skills, then we can eventually utilize generative AI, and then we can actually utilize our newly equipped skills related to generative AI. So yeah, I totally understand. Without the fundamental skills as engineers, or not only for engineers, but as an HR, fundamental skills, as an HR, if we lack of them, then we cannot utilize generative AI. And then also, like, coming back to your question, it's difficult for HR to identify necessary skills because things are changing so fast, and then still, like when we face new technologies, nobody knows what skills are required, right?
Yeah.
I totally agree, and then I'm not saying that HR should identify every single skills, right? So I think first, it's really the most important thing for HR to do is to build a culture and environment where employees always learn by themselves, right? Because it's for HR, it's really impossible to identify all the skills, right? But then, after a few months or something, people started to realize what kind of skills are really important, and then HR can help create some learning tools. Right. So, for example, now in our company, we are rolling out massive generative AI online training, where we discuss how we can prompt, what we need to be careful about, like hallucination and bias. So this is now we know that although we don't know the full impact of generative AI, but we already know these skills are anyway important. So now then HR can jump into to provide their skills as a learning contents creator.
That's interesting. So HR's responsibility is to create this culture of continuous learning and always listen to the new topics that people in the business side are learning about.
Yes.
And then see the chance to kind of like systematically create a training program.
Yeah, once like we are sure about the skills gap. Necessary skills.
Yeah.
But again, it's important for HR to be agile, because sometimes we rolled out the new learning content, but then we just realized that maybe we need another skill, and then we can shift to that too.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me summarize about workforce dynamics, which is the second element of this framework. HR should be aware of what kind of job will be displaced and then created, but then we need to also be careful about the pitfall to think that certain job will be completely replaced, because many jobs are actually enhanced by generative AI, right? So we need to know this nuance the impact of generative AI, and then we shouldn't forget about upskilling.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are the topics we need to think about when it comes to workforce dynamics.
Right.
So yeah, we've talked about 2 elements in the framework, and now we've been talking more than 30 minutes. So maybe we can stop here, and then we can restart from the third element, which is ways of working.
Sounds good.
Okay, so then see you next week.
Yeah, see you in the next episode.